Israel is at war. Hamas fighters infiltrated Israel from land, air and sea with over 5,000 rockets fired towards Israel within 20 minutes. An attack of this scale was obviously not planned overnight. Then how did Israel's famed intelligence agency Mossad, one of the finest in the world, not see it coming? Many are now questioning the country's revered intelligence agency Mossad to discuss the events and what happens next from here. To discuss this further, we're being joined live by Dr. Azriel Bermant. He's a senior researcher at the Institute of International Relations, Prague. Welcome on board, Azar.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Dr. Azriel, let's start right off from here. Israel is surrounded by enemies, and it has been. It's not something new. It cannot afford a moment of laxness. Then how did they not see this coming? Now, this is a question which is really baffling minds all across the world. Security personnel, security analysts, so many people put the same question. How did they not see this coming?
Well, I have to say that one of the key problems right now, which is cannot be overstated, is that there is a lack of trust between the Prime Minister Netanyahu and the defense establishment, and he is often sort of marginalized senior members of the security establishment, and this is part of the problem, that you have a Prime Minister who is so obsessed with his political survival that he simply, instead of dealing with the pressing security problems facing Israel, has been instead pursuing a dangerous judicial upheaval that has caused division in the country when there are major threats to Israel. And of course, we've unfortunately, tragically, to our cost, you've seen this with this brutal Hamas terrorist attack, which has led so far to more than 700 Israelis killed, right, and over 2,500 people injured.
Now, you mentioned a lack of trust. If we were to just, speculate further on that, there's a lack of trust between Netanyahu and the security apparatus in Israel. Could there be a reason that there was an inclination, or there was an inkling regarding a pending attack, and it was not informed to the authorities there? Because after this entire episode, Netanyahu's government, or Netanyahu himself, will definitely be questioned as to what he did and how he let this all happen. Because it was on his watch that this entire terrorist attack has happened, and Israel is definitely feeling the brunt of it now, by the thousands.
Yes, this is on Netanyahu's watch. The buck stops with him. But at the same time, there is no question that there have been warnings from the Israel security establishment about the dangers of a multi-front war, about a new intifada, Palestinian uprising, and there have been, before this attack, there's been a series of terrorist attacks carried out from the West Bank. There's been a series of Israeli incursions, a series of Israeli operations against Hamas in the West Bank. However, it appears that Israel underestimated the threat of Hamas from Gaza. In fact, we've been hearing the security representatives, security officials saying that Hamas doesn't have an interest in a war with Israel. And there's no question that Israel's intelligence got this very, very badly wrong. They simply underestimated the sophistication as we saw in this attack.
We've heard these words, underestimated. We were taken by surprise. We did not see it coming. We were not prepared for it. We were not anticipating it. No, you could accept this from a third world nation. You could accept this from a nation not known for its defense prowess. But coming from a nation like Israel, which has the finest, one of the finest, I would say now, intelligence agencies in the world. We're talking about Mossad. and there have been movies made upon the way Mossad has conducted some of its own operations. There have been tales told through the ages about how Mossad functions. There are tales taken, there are, learnings from pages of how Mossad functions. So to come, these kind of statements coming from a nation which has developed Mossad is just unacceptable the way it has happened. So as of now, I know it is still nascent, I know it is still speculative, but do you feel there is some kind of an internal leak which has happened, probably to sabotage the Netanyahu government, or some kind of act of sabotage here?
No, not at all. I just think this is a failure. We've seen this before. 50 years ago exactly, during the Yom Kippur War. The same, well, a different, because there were already clear signs that Egypt and Syria were, 50 years ago, were preparing to carry out a surprise attack against Israel. And of course, today even today, there are more revelations coming out about the failure that happened over the Yom Kippur War. So, this has happened before, and it's just the fact that it's exactly 50 years later. The timing of this is astonishing, right. And it shows that it may be as painful as it is to admit, there is, if you like, a certain level of maybe perhaps of arrogance that Israel did not take Hamas seriously enough as an adversary, because Israel sees Hezbollah in Iran as a much far greater threat than Hamas. Another thing to mention, of course, there have been some reports coming out most just now. For example, the Wall Street Journal came out with reports suggesting that Iran was actively involved in supporting this Hamas attack. And certainly there is no question that Hamas must have received the sophistication of this attack, the way in which the explosives that were used to break Israel's defense on the Gaza border suggests that it received some outside assistance. This doesn't excuse the lack of the way in which the intelligence failure. There will definitely be resignations, and not immediately, but after this war, there will definitely be huge repercussions with the resignations in the security, military intelligence, and Israel security Israel security apparatus.
Azrael, we spoke about the war which took place 50 years ago. It was actually after the 50th anniversary now, the 1973 Arab-Israeli war, and it carried the current attack. It carried echoes of that conflict as well, as you just mentioned. Now, even 50 years ago, Israel was caught flat-footed by a coordinated offensive by its Arab neighbors. As of now, talking about what has happened here in 2023 now, what Israel is currently dealing with, what is Hamas' strategy with this current attack?
The Hamas is right now clearly what it wants to do is it wants to use these hostages that it has, the Israeli hostages, to obtain the release of its prisoners in Israeli jails. That is no question that is what it's trying to do.
I'm just coming in here with this because the hostages also include foreign nationals. It's not just Israeli hostages that they've taken in. They also have hostages from the US. There are US nationals, UK nationals, France, Thailand, Nepalese. They've also been taken hostage. Will we see foreign governments getting involved here as well if the situation is not handled by Israel soon? Because Netanyahu has already stated that it will be a long and difficult war. How long do you feel other governments will keep waiting for their nationals to be released by Hamas?
Well, it's Israel's priority will be to damage Hamas's capabilities, and prevent it from carrying out similar such attacks in the future. So I, s- I think that what will be Israel's, even though there'll be a grave risk to the
Yes.
security of its hostages, that will surely be the priority. And Israel will be mindful of the fact that if it were to negotiate a deal that would allow Palestinian prisoners to be released in exchange for hostages, that would be a major victory for Hamas.
So they're definitely caught in a tight spot here. I mean, any kind of action they take, it will not come without repercussions. And now that since foreign nationals are involved as well, and that could also possibly be a part of Hamas strategy, because their first point of attack was the festival, the music festival where they attacked. And that festival is known for having several people who come in from around the globe to attend it, in the kibbutz especially. A lot of people around the world, they travel there and to enjoy the music festival. The fact that they attacked there first, they knew exactly that they will get their hands on several foreign nationals. And this is something that they can very easily use as bait, not as bait, but as bargaining chips against Israel. Now, do you feel Israel, and I'm just taking by this conversation that I had recently with somebody from Tel Aviv, a retired security official. I asked him the same question. Do you feel Israel's hands are now tied since there are hostages in Hamas, occupation? And he said, we will do what we need to do. So I wanted to ask you the same question. Do you feel Israel would be more cautious while attacking Hamas now because of the hostages in there? Or do you feel this is not in Israel's nature? They will go all out and whatever happens, happens?
I suspect that Israel will. Israel, as you said, this is a major dilemma for Israel. Because if it attacks against Hamas are too forceful, there is a risk of harm to the Israeli hostages.
Yes.
However, Israel will probably be looking at the bigger picture and the fact that it needs to protect its population. In some ways, the damage was already done. Tragic with what happened on Saturday, and Israel will need to make sure that I suspect that the greater priority for Israel's government will be to ensure that to degrade Hamas's capabilities so that it can't carry out an attack of this kind in the future, even if this poses grave risk to the security of its hostages.
It's extremely unfortunate what we've seen happen in the last, since Saturday. What we've seen happen in Israel, there were almost 260 people who died in that music festival itself there and then. Several of them were then taken as hostage, several Israelis, so many foreign nationals, so many of them are still missing and now assumed dead. So, of course, the situation is extremely grim. And we have been tracking all the developments on WION. But thank you so much for your time, sir. That was Dr. Azriel Bermant, who joined us for this conversation. While we try to decode what Israel will be doing next and what laid the footsteps for this to happen in the past as well. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
My pleasure.